Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The first thing she did was complain about the airport coffee. Not a hug. Not a missed you. Just, they ran out of oat milk. Can you believe that? She dropped her suitcase at the door like it was my job to take it upstairs. Her sunglasses were still on. Her tan looked fake. Her smile was real, but not for me. I stood there, holding the envelope. She walked past me, kicking off her shoes, already scrolling through her phone like the week she spent with her ex was just some quirky errand. Don't start, she said flatly, not even looking at me, like I was a conversation she'd muted. That's when I handed it to her. One simple envelope. No drama. Just closure. She blinked. What's this? I didn't answer. She opened it. Read the top line. Paused. Divorce? She whispered. Like the word itself was in a foreign language. I finally spoke. Quiet, calm, already detached, already finished. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're being ridiculous. I didn't move. I didn't blink. She flipped through the papers, her smirk slipping with every turn. Assets split. Car in my name. Her trip money? Traced, documented, refunded from our joint account. And the best part? A printout of her texts with Keaton, timestamped, geotagged, screenshot and notarized. Her face turned pale, and then the panic set in. She didn't cry, not right away. She just stood there, flipping through the pages like they were a script she hadn't auditioned for. Page after page of cold, legal reality. My signature at the bottom of each. Her betrayal laid out in bulletproof detail. And yet, she still tried to spin it. You're really doing this? Over what? Old messages? You're blowing up our life over nothing? I nearly laughed. Nothing? I spent 6 years giving her everything. My time, my money, my peace of mind, and she called a week-long secret vacation with her ex nothing? She stormed into the kitchen, pacing like a lawyer building a defense. You're overreacting. We didn't even sleep together. Her words were sharp, confident, until I tapped my phone and played the audio. Crystal clear. Her voice, breathless, whispering, I forgot how good you were. That was the moment her whole expression collapsed. Her hands trembled. She reached for a chair and sat down like her legs had given out. You bugged me? She croaked. No, I said, setting the PI's folder on the table. I trusted you. He didn't. That stung. I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't just ashamed. I think for the first time she was scared. Not of me. Of the consequences. Rayna always thought she could talk her way out of anything. But now, every lie was labeled and documented, and there was nothing left to explain. You're not even going to talk to me? She asked. You just... What? Plan a takedown while I was gone? That made me snap. No, Rayna. I planned a future. You burned it down. I just handed you the ashes. She stood up fast, knocking the chair over. You're weak, she hissed. You always were. I needed someone with fire. I nodded slowly. That's why you went crawling back to a man who dumped you in college and now sells crypto courses on Instagram? Her silence was deafening. That's when I walked to the front door, opened it, and motioned to her suitcase. You should go, before this gets worse for both of us. She didn't move, just stared at me like I was someone she didn't recognize. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe the version of me who let things slide, who begged for connection, who believed her excuses. Maybe he died the moment she left for that flight. And maybe that's the part she regrets now, not the affair, but that I finally stopped being the doormat she needed. She didn't leave that night. She sat there at the kitchen table, pretending the envelope in her lap wasn't a grenade. She looked around the house like it was unfamiliar now, like I had rearranged everything while she was gone. Maybe I had, emotionally at least. I didn't raise my voice, didn't curse her out. That's what made it worse. I wasn't the man she remembered. I wasn't begging. I wasn't broken. I was done. And I think that terrified her more than anything. She finally spoke around midnight. So what now? Her voice cracked slightly, like she still couldn't believe I was serious. You want me to just leave? That's it? I didn't even turn to look at her. I was on the couch, flipping through the channels, not watching anything. Just needed background noise to drown her out. Rayna, I said calmly, you already left. All I'm doing is catching up. She started crying then, soft at first, then harder when she realized I wasn't coming over to comfort her like I used to. She said things I'd heard before, but this time they fell flat. We can fix this. It didn't mean anything. I made a mistake. All the classics. But the worst part wasn't her words. It was that she still thought I was dumb enough to buy them. I got up to grab a drink. As I passed, I saw her looking at her reflection in the microwave door. Mascara running, lips trembling, and I swear, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Shame. But not the kind that makes people change. The kind that makes them desperate. Dean, she whispered. You don't have to do this. We can figure it out. I'll cut him off, I swear. I laughed. Quiet. Bitter. You already figured it out when you packed for that trip. You just didn't think I would. She followed me into the hallway, barefoot, pleading now. Don't throw this away. Don't throw me away. I turned to her, tired. You threw me away the second you bought that second ticket, Rayna. She broke, sat on the stairs and buried her face in her hands, sobbing like the villain at the end of a movie who finally realizes the hero doesn't love her anymore. And the sad part? A small piece of me still felt bad. But I didn't stop walking. I didn't kneel beside her. I went upstairs, shut the door, locked it. That night, I lay in bed alone while she stayed downstairs on the couch, crying herself into silence. I thought I'd feel free. I didn't. I just felt empty, like someone had taken a vacuum to my chest and left nothing but echo. But I needed that silence, because the next morning, I was going to tell her something that would destroy whatever little hope she still had left. The next morning wasn't quiet. It was fake quiet, the kind where the coffee machine hisses louder than it should, and the clock ticks like a countdown. I came downstairs already dressed. She was sitting on the same couch she cried herself to sleep on, wrapped in a blanket I bought her 2 Christmases ago. I wondered if she even remembered that, or if that memory had been overwritten by beach photos and secret hotel rooms. Rayna looked up, eyes puffy, trying to read my face. She didn't ask how I slept. She just blurted, "Can we talk before you make things worse?" I didn't answer. I walked to the fridge, poured myself orange juice, sat down at the dining table, and placed a small box next to my glass. That got her attention. She stood slowly and crossed the room like she was approaching a wild animal. "What's that?" she asked, her voice cautious. "My goodbye," I said, not looking at her. She sat across from me, still wrapped in that stupid blanket like it could protect her from consequences. "Dean, I made a mistake. A big one. But don't act like you're innocent. You've been distant for months." That was her defense. Me being distant. As if emotional detachment gives someone a green light to resurrect an ex and book matching plane tickets. "I was distant," I said slowly, "because I was watching the woman I love turn into someone I couldn't recognize." She flinched. For once, her eyes didn't roll or dart away. They just dropped. "I thought he could give me something I'd lost," she muttered. "But it wasn't real. It didn't feel right." I slid the box toward her. She opened it, probably expecting a ring or some nostalgic relic I'd kept to remind her what we used to be. But it wasn't that. It was her phone. Not the one she used now. The old one she'd thrown in a drawer months ago when she said it was too slow. Except it still had her backup files. Messages, videos, photos, everything. She looked at me in disbelief. "You went through this?" "No. I let your lies walk me straight to the truth. I didn't need to break in. You left the door wide open." She reached for the glass of water beside her and nearly dropped it. "What do you want from me, Dean? You want me to grovel? You want me to disappear?" I stared at her. "I want the woman I married back. But she's gone. And what's left isn't worth fighting for anymore." She broke again. Tears ran silently this time, like she knew the performance didn't matter anymore. She stood up, opened her mouth, closed it again, then finally whispered, "I never thought you'd have the strength to walk away." I smiled faintly. Neither did I. But you showed me how. That morning, she packed again. But slower this time. I didn't offer to help. I didn't ask where she was going. I just watched her zip up her life and drag it out the door. This time without a tan or a smirk. And still, she didn't realize that the worst part hadn't even started yet. Rayna was gone. At least, physically. Her bags were packed, her keys left on the counter, and the door had closed behind her like the final click of a coffin lid. But her presence? It still haunted every corner of the house. The faint smell of her perfume in the hallway. The half-used bottle of shampoo in the shower. The way my name still echoed differently when I said it out loud. Like it didn't belong to a husband anymore, just a man who'd finally stopped begging. But the story didn't end with her leaving. No, that's where things got complicated. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe even satisfaction. But what I actually felt was nothing. Just the kind of numb that makes you question if you ever mattered to the person who slept beside you for 6 years. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the coffee pot she used every morning. And I realized I didn't know how I liked my coffee. I always made it the way she liked it. That same day I got a call. Not from her. From Keaton. Yep, the ex. The man she thought would replace me. He sounded nervous, which was rich coming from the guy who had no problem cozying up to another man's wife. "Hey Dean, I think we should talk," he said. I nearly dropped the phone. "What makes you think I have anything to say to you?" I asked. He hesitated, then said the one thing that flipped everything upside down. "She lied to both of us." I froze. "Come again," I said, bracing myself. He sighed. "She told me you were separated, that she filed first, that you cheated. I didn't find out the truth until she broke down at the hotel. I left early. I didn't sleep with her, man." Part of me wanted to believe he was just covering his own guilt. But something in his voice felt honest. Shaky. Ashamed. Even a little lost. He said Rayna kept spinning stories even on the flight down. Said she had a plan, and that I'd never see it coming. And suddenly all the missing pieces started clicking into place. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation. She hadn't just cheated. She had tried to rewrite reality for both of us. I hung up without saying much, but I was shaking. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Because now I saw her for what she really was. A master of illusion. She didn't just break our vows. She twisted them until they became something unrecognizable, then fed them back to us like truth. Later that evening, I went into the closet and pulled down the storage bin I'd been too afraid to open before. Inside were letters, dozens of them, from her, from the early days, before we got married. Notes about forever, about how I made her feel safe. I read them one by one and realized something horrifying. I still wanted to believe those words were true, even after everything. But belief doesn't make betrayal disappear. It just delays the pain. And I wasn't done hurting yet. 3 days after she left, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten, no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable, hers. I stared at the envelope for a full 10 minutes before I opened it. Not because I expected some grand apology, but because I wasn't sure if I had the strength to read one more lie. But curiosity is a cruel addiction. I opened it anyway. It wasn't an apology. It was a script. A carefully worded essay about miscommunication, emotional distance, and how she needed clarity. She said she never meant to hurt me, but that she had to explore what her heart was pulling her toward. I didn't know if what we had was real anymore, she wrote, so I had to step away to see if it still was. Step away? She called a secret vacation with her ex-boyfriend, stepping away. My stomach twisted as I read on. The letter ended with, "If you ever decide to forgive me, I'll be waiting. I still love you, even if I've done everything to make you doubt it." No signature. No return address. Just that haunting line that sat in my chest like a stone. I'll be waiting. I didn't know what bothered me more, that she wrote it or that part of me still wanted to believe it. Later that evening, I called Gabe, the same friend who helped me uncover her lies. I hadn't told him everything yet, but I needed a voice outside my own head. He didn't mince words. Dean, you don't owe her healing. You owe yourself freedom. She made her choices. Stop carrying her consequences. I wish it were that easy. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't just hit your heart. It hits your identity. I started questioning everything. Was I boring? Was I not enough? Did I miss signs years ago and just pretend not to? I replayed moments like old voicemail messages. Ones where she smiled at me, held my hand, said she was lucky. Was it all fake? Or had I been real in a story that slowly rewrote itself? The next morning I got a text. Unknown number. You okay? I nearly deleted it, assuming it was her. But something stopped me. I replied, "Who is this?" Seconds later, "It's Keaton. Can we talk?" I didn't answer. That afternoon, though, I got a knock at the door. Not Rayna, not Keaton. Someone else entirely, Rayna's younger sister, Isla. She looked nervous, clutching a tote bag, eyes darting to the driveway like she'd parked illegally. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch like she didn't want to make herself too comfortable. "Dean, I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I need to tell you something, and it can't wait." What she told me next didn't just shift the story. It set it on fire. Isla's hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. She kept twisting the strap of her bag like she was bracing for me to kick her out. I didn't say a word. I just waited. My head was spinning with 1,000 possible scenarios. None of them good. But her face told me this wasn't about damage control. This was something else. Something she'd been carrying and finally couldn't keep quiet about. "I should have told you sooner," she began, barely above a whisper. "But Rayna made me promise not to get involved. She said it would ruin everything." That phrase, "ruin everything," sent a cold spike down my spine. Ruin what? What was left to ruin? Isla looked up at me, her eyes red, and finally said it. "This wasn't the first time, Dean. Keaton wasn't the only one." I felt like the floor shifted beneath me. I gripped the edge of the coffee table just to stay grounded. "What are you saying?" I asked slowly, even though part of me already knew. "She's been doing this for years," Isla continued. "She'd meet up with guys on her work trips. She even told me once that she liked the thrill. Said it made her feel powerful." Her voice cracked on that last word like it physically hurt her to repeat it. I wanted to scream, to break something, to wake up from this spiraling nightmare. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, my chest tight and my breath shallow. "She always said you were too good," Isla went on, as if that explained anything. "Said you wouldn't leave even if you found out. And that's why I'm here, because you did find out. And you are leaving." And I thought, you deserved the whole truth before she spins it into something else. I closed my eyes, trying to absorb it, trying to understand how someone could live a double life right under my nose. All those times she came home tired, all those last-minute trips, all the emotional distance she blamed on me. It had all been part of a lie so deep, I had no idea where it ended. "She told Keaton you abused her," Isla added quietly. "She said she stayed with you out of fear, that you were controlling and cold." My heart didn't just break in that moment, it turned to ash. I had spent the last few weeks questioning my worth, my masculinity, my ability to love. And all along, she had been out there turning me into the villain of her story. I stood up suddenly, overwhelmed by the heat in my face. "Why are you telling me this now?" I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. Isla looked up at me, eyes full of guilt. "Because I watched her destroy you, and I stayed quiet. Because you were good to her, Dean. Better than she ever deserved. And because if I were in your place, I'd want someone to finally be honest." I didn't know what to say. I didn't thank her. I didn't yell. I just stood there, my entire body trembling with the weight of what I just learned. My marriage hadn't just been a betrayal, it had been a performance. A script written by someone who wanted to look like the victim while playing the villain all along. And still, there was one more person I needed to hear from. After Isla left, I sat alone for what felt like hours, just staring at the space where my life used to be. It's hard to explain what it feels like to watch your reality unravel piece by piece, not from a single blow, but from years of hidden cuts finally surfacing. But somewhere in that silence, in the wreckage of everything I thought I had, I realized something strange. I felt lighter. Rayna didn't reach out again. Not after Isla visited. Not after the documents. Not after the truth. Maybe she knew it was over. Maybe she didn't expect anyone to finally call her bluff. Or maybe, for once in her life, she understood the damage was beyond repair. A week later, I moved out of that house. I didn't sell it out of spite. I left it behind like an old coat that no longer fit. The memories were too heavy to carry. I found a small place closer to my work, near a park I used to jog through before everything became about survival. The first night in my new apartment, I slept through the night for the first time in months. No nightmares, no heavy weight on my chest, just silence and peace. A few weeks after that, I started talking to someone. Her name's Delia. I met her through a friend who insisted I needed to laugh again. I didn't expect anything serious. I was still rebuilding. But there was something about Delia, gentle, honest, real. The kind of person who asked how my day was and actually listened to the answer. We started slow. Coffee turned into long walks. Long walks turned into deeper conversations. And somewhere along the way, I caught myself smiling again. Genuinely. Not because I was trying to hold things together, but because I no longer had to. I'm not saying I'm healed. That kind of betrayal doesn't vanish overnight. But I've learned that closure isn't about getting an apology. It's about giving yourself permission to move forward, even if you never fully understand why it all fell apart. And as painful as it was, Rayna leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it forced me to stop clinging to someone who only loved me when it was convenient. Today, I'm no longer the guy who waited by the door. I'm the one who walks through it with his head held high. And for the first time in years, I like the man looking back at me in the mirror. What about you? Have you ever had someone twist reality so well that you began to doubt your own instincts? Or maybe you found strength right when everyone expected you to break. Let us know in the comments. And if this story hit close to home, or made you reflect on something personal, don't forget to like and subscribe. More real stories, real confessions, and powerful moments, right here on Reddit Confessions.